All right, guys, interesting piece here today, but I'm sure that you guys are going to love this discussion, as well as go down in the comment section and share your guys' story if the things that I'm talking about, you have a story about it. But anyway, we always hear, especially from the feminist dominated media centric society that we are today, that women are held back in the workplace today from a male dominated workplace and culture on the backs of patriarchy. We also hear that men get promoted more often than women. We hear the things regarding the wage or the pay gap. But in general, the conversation leans towards that it is currently unfair for women in the workplace, or that it's oppressive for women in the workplace as they're being oppressed by men, and that it's just not a fair game for them to play in. What we generally hear is that the workplace is just oppressive towards women, that it's not fair, or that it's just plain sexist. But what if I told you that the majority of workplace bullying and harassing towards women is committed by other women? You see, guys, we're going to dive into a topic today that mainstream media would never talk about because, again, it would remove the rose-colored glasses that modern women today are sugar, spice, and everything nice. Let's get active.
Honestly, the issues don't come from the men. The issues come from other females. Okay. Bullying cases in the workforce, 86% of them are female against female.
This is an article that I'm pulling from Forbes entitled "Women Bullied at Work. Here's Why Your Female Boss Doesn't Support You." Social movements such as the Me Too and the Time's Up are igniting change and bringing women together. Yet it still remains taboo for women to speak out about women-on-women bullying at work. The Workplace Bullying Institute found that women bully other women up to 80% of the time. In fact, studies have shown that women who report to women experience a greater frequency of bullying, abuse, and job sabotage. Guys, listen, to logically shut down a lot of these feminist arguments, you sort of have to be a walking lexicon of information. And this is information right here I'm going to put into my brain. And I think that you could throw out this data point to something to clearly show how a man might be better at something than a woman without appearing to be a misogynist. But they're always going to figure out a way to do that, even if you give them facts, data, and statistics. Anyway, women have fought and continue to fight for a seat at the table and to be seen as an equal to their male counterparts. However, this fight often comes with challenges on its own. Women who rise to the top often take on a more aggressive leadership style in order to fit in and to survive. So it's more aggressive because it's not within their nature. It's they're looking at something and they're saying, well, maybe I should make this a part of my nature, but it doesn't come from an ingrained perspective. They just create it. But get this is most commonly known as toxic masculinity. Pay attention. Toxic masculinity is when women model the behavior of their male peers to lead successfully. I find it so hilarious that legitimately in an article about women bullying women, somehow they find a way to discredit a man. How about leading successfully is not toxic masculinity, and these women are trying to mimic a behavior style that works? Are y'all starting to see how feminist programming is placed in key areas to discredit men? But I digress. But essentially what we have in this article right here is data to suggest that women bully or oppress women more often than their male counterparts. And instead of likening it to perhaps a degree of the business culture that she is involved in, also with a degree of her biological nature, they instead say it's because they're trying to be like the boys that are already successful, which to a degree can be somewhat true, but it had me thinking if there's other components at play which might explain this behavior.
I prefer having male bosses. I think women are very competitive. I believe that, women bosses, they'll try to kind of dumb people down so they stay on top, whereas men just they're already there. They know where they are.
Well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction.
But what is an out-of-control woman? What is this creature? How do we know when we met one?
Well, I'm sure that you've met women in your life that acted towards you in a bullying and detestable manner. It's very difficult for women to cope with that because they don't have any real recourse. And female bullying can be unbelievably vicious. And usually that takes the shape of reputation destruction, innuendo, and gossip. It's well documented. It's very difficult to defend. Men do it too, but men, no. But
disproportionately women, in your view, or not? Sorry.
Yes, disproportionately women. That's what the data indicate. I mean, if
but
men
where
are...
is the data on innuendo and gossip?
Well, it's among antisocial behavior among adolescents. It's a well-documented field. So because people look at aggressive and antisocial behavior in women and in men. And in women, it tends to take the expression of innuendo, gossip, and reputation destruction. And in men, it tends to take the form of outright physical aggression. There's a whole literature on that. It's not a surprise to anyone. This has been known for 30 years. I mean, the rates of antisocial...
I think the idea of the female gossip probably predates 30 years.
Well, it does.
By a long time, but that doesn't make it gospel,
but
really,
people
does it?
No, it doesn't. But look, women have to express aggression somehow unless you're willing to say that they're not aggressive. They tend not to do it physically, not to the degree men do, so they use other channels. And what other channels are there other than physical aggression if you're going to be aggressive? Well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
And just to be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
It isn't that I think that.
Well,
it's that the clinical literature indicates that. It isn't that I think it.
Well, I'm not interviewing the clinical literature. I'm interviewing you. What do you think?
Well, I'm a psychologist and a scientist, and I tend
to
to base my opinions on what I've read in the broad, relevant clinical literature. I'm not making this stuff up. Look at it this way. All right. Women are much more likely to try to commit suicide. And men are much more likely to kill themselves. And the reason for that is that men use lethal force and women don't. Now that's a big difference. Okay, so then you say, well, women manifest aggression towards themselves and to others, but they don't use lethal force. They don't use physical force the same way men do. So they have to do it some other way.
Why do they have to do something some other way?
What we need to take into consideration is that physical fighting is not something that's tolerated in the workplace. So this forces men to settle differences in a much more civil manner. But because the lot of women are not inclined towards physical confrontation, we can say that the workplace environment, which is already pacified towards physical violence, is more form fit for the nature of a woman. Innuendo, gossiping, and reputation destruction, i.e. bullying.
Despite the cultural perception that men are always responsible for creating hostile workplaces for women, I'd wager you'd be hard-pressed to find a woman who hasn't had a workplace made miserable for her by another woman. Over the last few years, conversations about toxic masculinity have dominated public discourse. The concept even found its way into advertising. Who could forget the notoriously feminist Gillette ad of 2019?
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get?
Wow.
Is it?
It's likely happening here in bullying as well.
A problem. We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taken.
Yeah, I remember this shit.
It's been going on far too long.
But what feminists consistently refuse...
That's how you end a brand in 1 minute flat. Shout out to Bud Light. Let's keep going.
...used to realize is many of the obstacles women face at work are placed by women. We constantly compete with each other. It begins in the schoolyard and continues into the workplace.
True.
And while men and boys will spar with aggressive confrontation,
indeed,
women undermine each other in subtle, toxically feminine ways. And they do it to gain the coveted status of a term first coined in the 1970s by researchers at the University of Michigan, the queen bee.
Uh-oh.
And evil takes a human form in Regina George.
She's the queen bee, the star.
Now, in a workplace context, the queen bee is usually a woman in a senior position who is cuttingly unhelpful to her female co-workers. She may verbally abuse them, publicly humiliate them, or use the cover of smiling passive aggression to undermine their achievements or chip away at their confidence.
What I like about what she's saying is that, number one, she's not calling what women do toxic masculinity, like that Forbes article. That's for one. And then number two, she's talking about queen bee as if it's negative. How often have we heard the term queen bee in our culture as something that is positive, something to aspire up to, all right? Less colloquially, they'll say the boss bee, all right? Either they say queen bee or they say boss bee. Both of them are trash. Throw them away.
Why are some women proud of being bitches?
Okay, you speak first.
It gets them that Louis bag, man. I mean,
I'm just gonna. It's good to be a bad bitch, like, because no one will with you. If you're too much of a submissive girl, people are gonna step on you. But if you give off the bad bitch vibe, no one's gonna fuck with you. You're gonna get respect.
know your value and always add taxes. Period.
Isn't that the female version of toxic masculinity?
It's absolutely
it can be.
It is. It is. It is.
You call it what you want.
If such treatment is ongoing, which it generally is, the queen bee's prey can suffer serious psychological damage. The prey may either wither into obscurity or quit the workplace altogether. But the most important thing to note here is the queen bee does not treat men the same way she treats women. It's known as the rope ladder effect. A woman will climb the ladder to the top, then pull it up after her so no more women can follow. Eventually, the only way for women to work around this queen bee is to join the proverbial hive.
The weird thing about hanging out with Regina was that I could hate her, and at the same time, I still wanted her to like me.
You have really good eyebrows.
Yo, women are a goddamn trip. You know what's so funny? We talk ish on girls that have nothing but male friends, and that will honestly never stop. I still think there should be a healthy balance. But you guys are beginning to understand why women find it so hard to find other women friends. Have you ever seen a guy say it's hard for you to make guy friends? It's never been hard in the history of ever. We're a lot more simple. We're a lot more direct with each other. We know where we stand with each other just based off of the way that we speak. Masculine men, feminine men do a lot of this women behind the back snake shit as well. So when a chick tells you that she don't have any girlfriends, I would still say it's less of a red flag and more of a key indicator, right? You just gotta dive further into to figure out why exactly that is.
Thanks.
Move.
Same with Gretchen. The meaner Regina was to her, the more Gretchen tried to win Regina back. She knew it was better to be in the plastics, hating life, than to not be in it all.
And in my personal experience,
Toxic.
heaven help any worker bee who challenges the mighty queen. For if she does not manage to usurp the throne, she shall surely be damned.
Do you know what everyone says about you? They say that you're a homeschooled jungle freak who's a less hot version of me. Yeah.
Now, despite toxic femininity being prevalent in many workplaces for decades, why do we only see negative messaging about male behavior at work?
Because negative messaging regarding women will jack up the bag. We all know why. All right, capitalism.
From politics to the private sector, men are always pinned as the rotten core of an unhealthy workplace culture.
Yep.
Women, on the other hand, get away with it. Why? Because societally, women are perceived as, dare I say it, children, including and indeed especially by feminist activists. Why else do you think the patriarchy is generally blamed for women being mean to each other at work? While it is of course understandable that women have historically felt like they're competing for limited space at the top, it makes no sense in 2022 to just blame men and their alleged toxic masculinity or unconscious bias for women electing to sabotage their female co-workers.
Word.
Now, to be clear, I am not accusing any specific individuals of engaging in this kind of conduct. But it is time we put a magnifying glass to women's toxic workplace behavior and biases the same way we have to men's and purge the sludge.
So yeah, let's put a spotlight on it. Guys, write down in the comment box down below. I want to see all of you guys' stories working with and dealing with women in the workplace. I remember not too long ago, I did a stream that was specific to minding your P's and your Q's, dotting your I's, crossing your T's when it comes to working with women in the workplace. And you guys shared all types of tips to help the other men a part of the MT Army so that they don't get in trouble in the workplace. But I want to hear your guys' story and your feedback. But understand this is that I am not saying by doing this video that women should not enter the workplace. Don't misclip me. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that this narrative about toxic masculinity and being oppressed in the workforce and women not getting the same options or choices within the workplace as men, all of that stuff has to drastically stop, because the data suggests that women on women altercations is clearly way more of an issue. So the next time that you guys find yourself at a discussion night, or, you somehow find yourself at a dinner table with a couple of armchair feminists and they start talking about the patriarchy and we don't have a fair shot at work, because of male leaders up at top, we need more women up on high. What you need to do, think about this video, show them the data. Questions, comments, concerns? Y'all already know what to do. Mediocre tutorials and reviews at gmail.com. Guys, share your stories down below. Shit, I might make another video kind of going up the top stories. So, write them out. I want to hear, I started on a Monday. By the end of the week, this chick, I knew that she had it out for me. I want to see all your guys' story, all right? The best ones might make another video, okay? Until next time, YouTube. Peace!
You don't wanna see me get vexed. Bars on your phone, tell them man you can't jack. The big guy, the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. You don't wanna see me get vexed. Bars on your phone, tell them man you can't jack. The big guy, the ones who can't stretch. Breaking the neck when we in the car next. That bar, need defibrillation ASAP. Get boxed with a straight guy. I'm reminded of mind state they lack. Every time that they climb, we go way back. All they wanna be is just